Okay, so we went on a short walk because it is raining and turning into a wintry mix, so it's getting a little chilly. And I didn't bring the water, so if we're licking obsessively, it's feet that are wet and things. Yeah. Ziva's leash got stuck. She gets into the back but comes up front. So, yeah, everybody else gets seatbelted in the back. Right, Tazzy? Yeah. Not on me. Don't talk to him. That's a problem. That's when the problem starts, when you try to talk to Tazzy. Okay, so tonight is supposed to be class night, and hopefully that's still the case. I'm going to call before I go to make sure that the weather isn't considered icky enough to keep class from happening. And hopefully go. Oh man, I haven't been since, well, of course I haven't been since I saw the Eagle, because that was on Saturday and class happens on Wednesdays. And I've been thinking about some things. Okay, so I was in the kitchen earlier and my dad was watching something and working on tech stuff and whatnot. And it's more of the Christian leaning stuff, of course. And so I'm standing at the fridge and I will scoff occasionally, just in those kind of, yeah. But I don't say things all the time. Once in a great while I do, and it usually gets them all wound up. But today it was just and some of that kind of stuff, right? So I do this, and I was thinking about some other things anyway, right? I go to my new office because I finally got my desk moved over, which is a whole thing in and of itself, right? And I wounded myself, that itty bitty little spot. I pinched my finger in the lid of my cup when I was trying to close it, because that was what I had been doing, was filling my cup up, and then I went into my room to put the lid on and I got my finger in the way and smashed it. Now, with the way the events had occurred, old me would have taken that as a sign of getting a little too mouthy and, God's trying to rein me in, right? Or whatever, right? So, new me is realizing that literally anything that came up like that along the way would have been something that old me would have allowed to be the thing that talked me out of doing the thing that I know I'm supposed to be doing, right? Which is a lot of running my mouth anymore. But then I was kind of thinking about how I think that's exactly, okay, not a damn one of us is perfect, right? And for good reason. Because, mainly, if any of us was perfect and was able to do everything on our own without the need of any others, then we wouldn't be able to make connections and have other people in our lives and whatnot. And the purpose... Stop! The purpose of this existence, even this mouthy dog back here, is we gotta learn to navigate the world with our flaws and imperfections, and the more we embrace our shortcomings, I think the more true to who we are we can be, right? So, like, the whole reason for the shortcomings is so we have other places we know we need assistance, so we can make connections with other people in the world, right? And sometimes with big mouth Tazzies. We did not walk that far and you had water before we left. But yeah. But I was spending some time with that thought, with just like the whole point that stop or I'm going to get out of this car. like the imperfections, the shortcomings, those are ways for us to kind of weave together with other people and other energies to create something more glorious than we'd be able to do on our own, right? So we get locked in this idea of we're supposed to be perfect and, follow the people that only show the best of their lives on social media or whatever, and then we feel like we're somehow not good enough because all these other peoples are showing us the best of their world, so we don't understand that there are worst aspects of their worlds as well. And that essentially is the purpose of my channel. I think I was sitting a lot with that thought the past couple days too, because when I was I've talked about how I've always been drawn to the goddess Hecate, right? So of course I really need you to stop. She's one of the dark goddesses, and I think her role is kind of helping people navigate through the depths kind of a thing, right? So shut the door, Lee. He doesn't know what I did. I just opened the door. Okay, so I've always been drawn to her specifically, and then I've mentioned many, many times that in 2020 I watched the Gem Goddess Tarot reading where she pulled this card it's like the tea leaf deck, and the card said Black Dog, and she said black dogs are important and mean it's about time. And of course I've talked on here a lot about how this is the only time in my life I've ever had black dogs, and I have 3 of which are primarily black. That's footprints, not nobody piddled. Yeah. But this is the only time in my life that I have ever had primarily black dogs, and I have 3 of them. And most of them were like sable shelties, which is mainly brown with some black. Chance had the most black of all the shelties that we've had. And I think that was kind of on this point too, but it wasn't until I got these guys that especially Ziva, that things really started coming together in that way. I love him. He's so silly. So I've talked about how last year, I started going to these classes at the metaphysical shop in Greenwood, and that in the first class that I went to, no, stop. Actually, it was the second class, because I went to the Wednesday night class and the Thursday class, and it was in the Thursday class that week that we talked about ways to ground and shield and protect your energy. And one of the means of doing so, that, aside from pretty rocks like I like to collect, and I've showed those many times, is through the frequency of color. And, black is one of those colors, right? So then the next week, when I was in the Wednesday night class, she talked about how she associates black with the color, or with source, because all things come from nothing, right? Or from the void, if you will. And so then, it really hit me as I get these right details in my experience, that at a time that I was unable to protect my own energy, then God provides me this prime opportunity and these prime specimens to help me with this job that I didn't even know I needed to do. He's not gonna fall for it this time. Oh, maybe he will. He wishes I wouldn't do it though. I wish I didn't have to. Stop talking at me. It's okay. So, right. So, at a time I didn't know I even needed to protect my energy. I didn't know that was a thing that I could actively work on even. It was something that these guys came into my space and were able to help me with that. And of course, Ziva was the one that started it all and talked about her being a little Capricorn for her little grounding on that end as well. He's definitely fire. Definitely fire with that one. Yeah. But, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Ziva was the start of it, and for Ziva, she, she's got the Capricorn in her as well. And then I was thinking a lot about how throughout my entire life, some of the people that I've been the closest to or around the most have had a little bit of that grounding energy as well. I'm just gonna take the keys out. Maybe that'll stop dinging anyway. So lay down, or at least sit. That's better. Now behave yourself. We'll see. So yeah, but like before we got these two were like 4 years after she joined me. So she had a little extra shielding protection on that. No. Stop. So yeah. But then, okay, how did I end up there? Going back to the connections of needing others, right? So at a time that I was unable to do this thing for myself, then God, if you will, brought these lovely little specimens into my life to help with that. And it was funny because Ziva was the first one. And the reason we got her was because my ex had a dog with his previous ex-wife, and it had been a Kelpie, and he had one picture of himself to show how much he loved that dog. One picture of himself with the dog, and they didn't look real friendly. So, yeah, but he was talking about how he just loved that dog. It was the best dog ever, and he wanted another one. So I just wanted a dog, and my big thing was I just wanted a rescue. And so I was looking on Pet Finder and found this lovely little number in Tennessee. And so we went on a little journey for her, and I never regretted it. She's been huge for my whole journey, and she's been with me through a whole lot. Stop. Just stop. I'm gonna go sit under that table. Go sit at that table and leave you here. It's raining though, and it's cold and windy, so I have to get out of the car, and that's not cool. But yeah, so then I was realizing how God had given me the opportunity to have plenty of other people in my life that had grounding energies at some degree, and of course my brother being the biggest of those. He's a Capricorn, and he's got a ton of Virgo in his chart too. Stop. I just need you to stop. Yeah. But then like my great grandma, she was a Taurus. My great grandfather, and of course those were the two that we spent all the time with when I was little. Stop. Oh, here's a fun thing. So, my great-grandpa, I've talked about him many times on here before too, because it was his death. He died at 77 when I was 7 years old. So there's like the start, or one of the early connections with these numbers, and it didn't mean anything to me at the time, so it's kind of made that connection more recently. But he was a Pisces, so fellow water signs can kind of float together, if you will. Yeah, so it's naturally kind of grounding in a way because it's a shared element. So, yeah. So the appreciation for water and all that. Anyway, the thing that was really cool about my great-grandpa, apparently, well, this wasn't really the real cool thing. This was just something that happened today. So when he died, there was this tree that he always used to sit under. And when he died, the tree died as well. So my grandma, my mom spent a lot of time over at her house here lately. They're trying to do some purging and updating of the house. Now that my grandfather's gone, she came across this hunk of wood that was from the tree that died after my great-grandfather died. And my mom said something about it, and my dad put it on the back behind. We have this little counter that it used to be just a bar, and we used to have like chairs that we would sit at it. Last year, we decided to put cabinets under it to make, give us more cabinet space, which has been very helpful. Well, to an extent, if you actually pack them with things in an organized fashion, it's helpful. And that's kind of hit and miss depending on who's unloading the dishwasher. Usually it's me, and it's okay. Sometimes it is not, and then things wander. And that's usually if my dad does it. But anyway, so the way that we kept the countertop that was already there, but since we put cabinets under it, there's like a gap like this big behind the back of the counter up against the wall, and that was where he had put it. So my mom said something about there's a hunk of wood over there. I picked it up and I read the little thing on it. It's like, okay. And she goes, and I said, and what's going to happen with this? And she said, well, I guess you'll probably just throw it away, or you'll hang on to it until I die and then just throw it away or something. It's like, not true. It's like, that is the exact kind of thing that I'm looking to put in my space right now. I said, seriously, have you seen how many rocks I have in my space? Because that has been a big thing the past few days, is I've been collecting my rocks, and I had a bunch on the windowsill. Stop. I had a bunch on the windowsills in the current bedroom, former office, and not as much in the other one because the dogs jump up in that window periodically, or that's why I didn't do it. I'll do it this time around. I had them all over my headboard. I have them on shelves. I have a bookcase that has a bunch of puzzles on it, and they're all around the top of it. Because since I have all these water placements and absolutely no earth in my chart, yeah. Because of that, I am not very grounded if I'm just relying on myself. So then I have these guys. There's a little sleepy number up here. Yeah. To help with that. But then I also have my rocks and the river rocks that I've just been collecting whenever I find them when I'm skating or, in our backyard or whatever. If I'm out there, it's like, ooh, that one's pretty. I'll take that one. Yeah. I have a lot of rocks. I have this box that's probably like 10 inches. Maybe not more than that. But it's probably like half filled with rocks. So, yeah. I really need you to knock it off. There is not a single reason for you to be acting up. And if I unhook you, you're going to just come up here and be in my face, and we're going to do it anyway, and regret it immediately, I'm sure. But yeah, I was like, I have nature in my space because I'm not very grounded by myself. So, no, you can't have her spot. That's Zippy's spot. You don't get hers. No, get back up. He's so disappointed that I didn't bring the water jug. But I promise he's okay. Oh, he licked my pants, damn it. So, anyway. No! Not right now. Get back there. Hey, get in the back. Oh, nope, he's getting in my lap. Oh, crap. Apparently, we're just gonna cuddle. Oh, and he's licking the steering wheel. That's not cool. If you at least behave, I'll allow it. So now I have this hunk of wood that's from... Oh, don't you dare eat that, you booger. No. I had a tissue in the cup holder and he nabbed it. Yeah. 60-pound lapdog, right? Hey, you gonna be in the show? No. Oh, this is so awkward. Okay, so stop eating weird shit, you nasty. He's just looking for anything to get into. So abused. Yeah. So surprised he's not licking the windows. Normally does that. My pigeon feather has to go in too. So yeah, I was like, I would love to have a random hunk of wood from the tree that that died when my great grandfather died. That works for me. That's like exactly the kind of stuff I'm looking for to have in my space. Yeah. So yesterday, my brother finally was able to help me move my desk, and it was not an early thing. So yesterday morning, I got up at like 3:15, and then since I took Gracie to school yesterday morning, I did not go back to sleep. It was one of those, I wanted to go back to sleep, but I did not go back to sleep because I set the intention that I would be able to get back up, and then just my brain wouldn't shut off, and so I was up. So I was up all that time, picked her up in the afternoon, ended up taking her to her dance class, and then after my brother and his wife they went over to the dance studio, they picked her up, and I don't think they ate before they came over, but they got her and then they came over. So they had a stoned basset hound in the car because she got her teeth done yesterday. And probably a ticked off doodle at home, which I tried to talk Gracie into taking her with us when we went to drop Gracie off yesterday morning. And she didn't want any part of it because she said it was too much trouble when she went to get out of the car. It's like, I got seatbelts. She can't go anywhere unless she's invited. That seatbelt thing for dogs is brilliant until you end up with this hoss of a lap dog. Zibby, thank you. Licking. Yeah, she's not gonna quit either. I knew it was risky with not bringing the water, but I wasn't really planning on getting him out of the car to walk around, but it was not raining enough that we went ahead and did a little lap, and just around this like section that we're at, and it's like a quarter of a mile. Hey, that's enough. That's enough, please. Zibby. Don't you mess my feathers up. Leave the feather alone. But anyway, he came over after that, and the wife and the kid and the dog stayed in the car, and he was thinking it was a lot easier. He forgot the desk was as massive as it was. He helped us move it into the back room the first time, and it was a little bit of an ordeal moving it. Okay, one thing is I'm I manifested that desk in 2 weeks. And it's the first thing that I really manifested that I knew I was manifesting, or that I knew I was kind of in the middle of the fact, but after the fact more so that I really understood what had happened. And it was like just this idea I had thrown out there that I would like to get a new desk. But then it was like, well, I don't have the money and blah, blah, blah. But then I accidentally sent somebody a message about a desk that I kind of liked. And then it started this whole thing where I decided to figure out what I wanted in a desk anyway. And then within 2 weeks, I'd found like this perfect desk for me. Like, it's the corner desk with a hutch on one side, and I absolutely have always loved those. And since I'm as into writing and doing things at my desk as I am, and I have always wanted a really good desk, right? So I found the one, I've told it other times, I won't tell the whole story, but once I found the type that I liked, then most of them that I was seeing used, they wanted like $200 for it. And then one night I just had this thought, it's like, yeah, but it'd be really cool if I could get one for free. And then I ended up getting it for free because in a place, okay, most of the desks that I had found that had the whole desk were at places that had like a whole bunch of roundabouts. And I was trying to avoid that more than anything. It's like, because I really didn't. Carmel, Indiana. That's so many. Oh my God. We've gotten car sick up there before trying to navigate the roundabouts, and it's just not my favorite place. Let alone with a freaking trailer on the back of the car with a big ass desk on it. How many ways can that go wrong, right? So that was what I kept thinking. It's like, I really don't want to deal with that. So the place it ended up being at was like a little over an hour straight shot down this one main road by our house, and then a couple turns, no big deal. And the people ended up posting it for free because they wanted it out of their space in a hurry, because they wanted to have that bedroom had the room that had been an office turned into another bedroom because they had 5 kids in this little house. So yeah. So it worked out, and in 2 weeks I manifested myself a desk that I love, and for free. The only thing is that since I've been into rearranging as much as I have been, this is something I've always done, and it's like after a certain amount of time, things feel kind of stale, so then I need to shake it up, right? Rearranging furniture is a real easy way to do that. At least it used to be before I got a big ass desk that I can't move by myself. And I had thought I could try this thing, and then like I started sliding the hutch around yesterday. It's like, there is no way in hell I'm doing that by myself. That is way too heavy. And every time, usually my dad has helped me with it, but I've talked about that on here as well. It's like, I just really did not want to ask him for help, right? So I wanted my brother to help me because he's way cooler about it. Like every time I've talked about the car needing something, and then he has to go, yeah, he's always like found ways to make me and my brother feel stupid if we need him to look at something and our car is not acting right or whatever. And my brother reminded me that he always used to have the excuse of, it's probably just bad gas. And that was always the excuse. If the car was acting up, my brother had gotten bad gas, and that was the thing. And it's like, okay. And I told my brother, it's like, I'm pretty confident if the car blew up with me in it, he would be okay with that. And I've said that to my mom, and she was like, no, he wouldn't. She made a big deal about it. And my brother's kind of like, it does kind of seem that way sometimes. It's like, exactly. So I didn't want to ask for his help, because then too, every time I've had him help me with something in my room, he bitches about it. Like the last time he did anything was He moved my TV for me. It's my brother and sister-in-law, whenever they've gotten updated TVs or whatever, they ask if I want the old one that they're replacing. And this one was one that came from them, but they didn't have the stand on it. They had mounted it on the wall, done away with the stand, didn't end up keeping the stand, I guess, and so I had to have it mounted. And so I went from one wall to a different wall, and he pitched a freaking fit that whole time. And, he helped me with a DVD rack, and then when I moved it, because it was by my bed, that wasn't a good spot. But then when I switched the bedroom and the office around originally, because it felt like it would be better if I was spending more time with the birds and have them in the room that I was in all the time, was the big thing. And I had too many animals to have it in the smaller room. So now that I'm down to 2 birds, it goes well in the smaller room. Or at least in the process, it is working out. Yeah. So my brother helped me with the task last night. Now, every time we've moved it, regardless of who has moved it, like little pieces of like the particle board or whatever, kind of snap off or break off, whatever. And last night I goofed, and because I was crawling around under the desk without my phone to use as a flashlight because my phone was charging in the other room, there was this little L piece that I forgot was there to connect, to keep the 2 things secure, and we accidentally ripped the screws on it. Luckily, they were like this big. So it didn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's still enough that I'm thinking whenever I go to like move for real, then I'll probably just manifest a new desk. Yeah. So there's that. But it worked out. Got it all shuffled around, and I'm working on loading it up now. Because that's a whole ordeal. It's like nothing can stay on that thing that doesn't need to be there if we are trying to move it, because it's fucking heavy. We did, however, have a 4-wheeled cart, which is very nice. And the piece that had 3 drawers was lightweight enough that I could pick it up and load it on the cart by myself and then shove it down the hall and unload it while my brother was holding pieces in place and keeping them from like falling over, since I knew where I wanted it and all that fun stuff. Yeah. But the last piece was the only one we really had an issue with. It was kind of, we had to get creative with how we were rotating the pieces to take them out of the one room and into the other room, because the rooms were on the same side of the hall. And I mean, that was fine, but it's a hallway and there's not a whole lot of space in the hallway to do a lot of getting creative on that end. So yeah, you just want to be a lapdog, apparently. It's like, if we're going to be sitting here doing this, you can hold me. So yeah, so that was happening, and I went ahead, and since the bed was completely apart, that was the other part. I have a Tempur-Pedic mattress that, I got off of a family friend when they updated their bed, and it's got a mattress topper and all this stuff. Those Tempur-Pedic mattresses are fucking heavy. But I did handle that on my own, both taking it out of the old bedroom, taking it into the living room, and then taking it from the living room to the back bedroom, the new bedroom. New old bedroom. Yeah, at the end of the day, because I really just didn't want to ask anybody. But then I had a 4-wheel cart, which came out of my dad's truck. Yeah, I saw that he was leaving. I thought my brother was going to come over earlier in the day, and then it ended up not happening. I think he came over at like 7. But when I saw my dad leaving and I wasn't sure what time my brother was going to be coming over to help me with the thing, I stopped him on like our long driveway, in passing because I was coming in, and asked if he had the 4-wheeled cart in his truck. He was like, no, last I saw it was in the garage. It's like, I knew better. I was like, all right. And I went in, I parked in the driveway, went in the house, looked in the garage, and sure enough, it was not there. And he got over to my grandma's house because he was loading up stuff to take to donate, and sends me a message. He said, oh, it is in the truck. Sorry. He's like, if you need it, you can come get it. It's like, no, it's not pressing enough, but I'm going to chase you down for it again when I already stopped you in the driveway for it. I knew that was going to happen though. But it goes to that point of every time I've asked for something, it's more trouble than it's worth to actually participate in the project. So I'd rather not ask, right? And when I woke up yesterday, when I started getting ready yesterday, if I am moving early in the morning, the dogs know something's up. And usually around that time, my brother will call me and say he's bringing the kid over. So they have since associated that early morning phone calls mean somebody's going to be here. So when I went to the bathroom and was getting ready, Ziva started barking because she thought they were here. It's like, stop it. And they weren't. But then my mom was all excited because she figured Gracie was going to be there. And so when I went to leave, because I told my brother I would go over there yesterday morning, my mom's sitting at the table in her pajamas. Ziva started barking in the hallway, and I sent my brother a message. I said, Ziva's ratting me out, so no promises that she's not going to come, or that mom's not going to come with me. He's like, okay. Because mind you, they still haven't really talked. They've kind of been avoiding each other for various reasons. And the biggest one, I think, is, okay, I've talked about the stuff with my mom and how she looks for any kind of in and then ropes you in to like her little coercion and all this stuff, right? So, prime example, yesterday in the afternoon, she was home before I went to pick Gracie up. So I said, I'm going to go pick up Gracie. Do you want to go with me? And she said, well, yes, I would love to see her. She said, they have been keeping her from me for a long time, or for weeks now. And yes, I want to see my kid. It's like, whatever. So we are on alert. So she went with me to pick up the kid. And then while we were there, my brother called, or as we were getting ready to leave after we picked her up, my brother calls to say that the dog wasn't going to be done with her dental appointment until 5:30, and could we take her to her dance class? It's like, okay. So it became this whole thing. And then we had to go back to our house to get the garage door opener out of this thing, because yesterday I went over there in this thing yesterday morning. So I left it there because I was figuring if I needed to go back over there, it's in this car, right? But then when Mom ended up going with me to pick up the kid, we took the other car. And so we had to go back to our house to get the garage door opener before going over to their house to get her clothes for her dance class. And then didn't realize until she was getting ready that we forgot the shoes for the dance class. And she was like, you forgot my shoes. And it's like, you didn't remind me that we needed shoes. It's just the whole thing. It's like, because I normally don't take her. My parents have taken her before, but it's still, there's so much that has to be figured out, and usually it's just easier when her mom and dad do it, right? And it's the same people all the time. So, yeah. But anyway, we take the kid over there, and we were getting along fine. We weren't being hugely social, but, we stayed there until my brother and his wife were close, or they were like within 10 minutes of getting to the dance studio, and then we went ahead and left just to make sure that there wasn't going to be a big overlap of time where nobody was there in case something happened and a parent was needed or whatever. An adult was needed for the child. Which even then they would have called my brother and sister-in-law if something had happened. So, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Getting random tangents yet again. So we were sitting there, and I would put my phone in the door and then just kind of look around. I like not spending all my time on social media, to be honest. And yet, that's pretty much all she was doing. So then there would be moments where I'd pick my phone up and then go scrolling on Instagram for a little bit and then put it down again, and then, kind of back and forth with that a lot. And we showed each other some weird little video things. I had this one thing pop up that had like a snail that somebody had done a little computerized graphic on his face, and showed the snail was on the windshield of a car that was driving down the road. And so it was just like making these expressions or doing these little faces and whatnot. So I showed her that. She showed me like some shirts and some weird stuff, and I don't know. Where it comes in at, we go back home, and after my brother leaves, after he helped me with the desk, I was in the kitchen. I don't remember what we were talking about at the moment. My mom and dad were sitting at the table. I had some political bullshit on TV, so I was not planning on staying there very long. And he'd like it better if I sat in the back seat, probably. So at some point in there, she says, I would like you to set aside some time to help over at Grandma's on Saturday. It's like, what are you doing now? It's like, okay, they're getting new carpet throughout the entire house and painting the entire house. Can we not coordinate a way to do like half of it and then the other half, and so the furniture can move from like one space into the other? No, we got to do it all at one time and throw it all in the garage and like whatever. And it's like, no. So, I've talked about that too, because the day with the eagle, it's literally the game, right? She's so involved in getting everybody to play her game. It's, I did this for you, now you owe me this kind of a thing. It's like, it's not love, it's obligation. And like yesterday she gave me like 3 tie-dyed shirts. They were, okay, she knows that I've gotten down to where I'm wearing a lot of like large shirts instead of extra large. If there are men's sizes, I'm going to go with a large every time. If they're women's sizes, XL, maybe even 2X, depending on the fit, and that's if I get to even try it or anything, so just, it's like, it's just how I am. But, she comes in with these 3 shirts that are all extra large, and of course, since I've lost weight, I'm trying to not have as many of those, because I want more stuff that fits better. But she was like, well, the first was one that I had previously. And I was like, you already got me this one? And she said yes, but it was a 2X. And so I had given it to her. And so she got me a new one. But they didn't have it in a large. And then she said they didn't have any of those colors in the large. But she also she likes us to match too. Like me, her, and Gracie. It's usually if she's getting something for one of us, she's getting it for all 3 of us. It's like, okay. I'm perfectly okay with not matching people, especially my mother if I'm going somewhere, because that's always been a big thing. We've always been drawn to the same colors anyway, but then it always just feels like a big deal when we happen to navigate or go in the same direction of whatever one day when we're going somewhere, especially if we're going somewhere together. It's like, I don't want to clone you when we're going to be spending time together. And it kind of became a joke because she and the middle sister they have a few things because they have the same taste. They had Charlie Brown shirts that they came across, and they shop at the same places because it's the same kind of fit mostly. Well, I mean, the younger sister has to go petite, but all the same. Otherwise, same kind of stuff because they shop at the same places. So they ended up with the same shirt, and then they accidentally wore it the same day when they were taking my grandpa to an appointment. Well, then it became this big joke, so they got the other sister a matching shirt, and then, they got a picture with all three of them and my grandfather, because my grandmother refused to be in the picture with them looking stupid or something. I don't know. Like, this is literally my family, but yeah, it's like, I prefer not to match people. It's like, it's one thing if we're going to have the same shirt, but because we do like the same colors. But I really don't need that much stuff that matches my mother. Because I'm not going to wear it if we're going somewhere. Like, if we're going to the zoo and we come out and we happen to be wearing the same shirt. Now, if one of us is matching Gracie, that's another story. Who cares? She's 8. But yeah, it's like, I don't want to match my mother. And so, yeah, I will change. But luckily, there's a lot of stuff that I have more things that she would not be inclined to wear. But I really, yeah. I got so many freaking Snoopy shirts and whatnot. Which, I love Snoopy, don't get me wrong. But I don't need to match everybody in the family because everybody loves Snoopy. It's like, I like individuality. I like not twinning everybody. Unless it's the 8-year-old, I'm okay with twinning the 8-year-old. Honestly, okay, that muffin shirt that I wore the other day, with the cartoon dog. My brother and his wife both have that shirt. And that one was Gracie's shirt. But she didn't want it. I don't know if somebody's turned her against Bluey at school or something, but it's like, yeah, she didn't want it, I'll take it. So it does fit. So yeah. She had a doctor say that she'll probably be well over 6 feet tall, and she's always been a little bit bigger than all the other kids, and he said easily a 6'2" or better, I think. So that being the case, yes, sometimes, not often, but that shirt, they got for her, and then she didn't want it, and they asked if I wanted it, and at first I was like, I don't know, but then I was like, yeah, now it's growing on me. I really like that shirt. But yeah, I mean, I just got a healers from my since I got Healers, and I love that show. Yeah, but why did I end up there? Oh, my life, y'all. I mean, it goes back to that point on, like, the whole, I feel like that's the big thing, is like, okay, like, religion kind of discourages anything that stands out as individuality, right? You all have to believe the same, conform to the same shit, and whatever. Whether that's having very basic hair colors or whatever else. My brown's showing up and my green real well. The green's faded just enough now. But that's okay. It'll be alright. Yeah. And I think of, like, those pictures I've seen where it's got, like, a whole bunch of women in, like, the 60s or 70s, and they're all, like, wearing shorts and t-shirts and all have, like, brown or blonde hair, and, somebody put some bullshit thing on there about the good days when women looked normal and blah, blah, blah. It's like, meh. And so, the comments are full of, yeah, but they weren't happy. It's like, So yeah, that's one thing that conforming to bullshit will definitely help you with, is keep you from being happy and being able to express yourself in whatever fullness of you that is, right? So, okay, feel like that goes to that point of this dog. He's got his head all jacked up by the steering wheel and he keeps licking. He's like, he's not licking anything in particular. He's just doing that kind of a thing. But yeah, it's like, okay, so I've talked about how the church Holy Ghosted the feminine, right? And trying to make it so it's the Father and the Son and then the Holy Ghost. But what it is that's the feminine aspect that they're trying to keep from, well, because that's the point where okay, I've talked about how the feminine has to go first in her process in healing to really come into the fullness of who she is. And then with that, both bringing the masculine and the feminine aspects together, the divine masculine, divine feminine aspects of who she is. Because the fullness of who we are in that state, it's like being united with the other aspect of yourself, is what it creates, that third energy, which is the God energy, the Father, if you will. So, like, the church just went on this little rampage of cutting out anything that made it so the feminine had any kind of power, because if we can keep the feminine submissive and being all boring and not standing out and doing the things, right, that keeps them locked in the state of distortion, because they can't step into the fullness of who they came here to be either. And if they can't step into the fullness of who they came to be, if they're locked in that distortion, then that keeps the distorted masculine types in their power, which is basically the whole system of government that we have in place anywhere in the world. It literally does not matter. Anything that has been prevalently distorted masculine led is a distorted system that's not going to help anybody get anywhere, right? So that's like the okay. I've talked a lot about the Dolores Cannon books, where she talks about the 3 waves of new volunteers in the new earth. And she talked about, like, the first wave. Basically, it's been a while since I read this book, and he stuck his head through the steering wheel. What I think of for, like, the first wave types would be like the Keanu Reeves types, like Metallica types, where it's like, these people, stop licking that. Obviously haven't had easy lives, but were able to step into the fullness of who they were and are able to be beacons for the next round of us, right? And the next round of us has been navigating through the densities, right? So I've talked on here about how if you're, like, drawn to skulls, then, okay, Annie mentioned in class once that if you are drawn to skulls, it means you've been a shaman in another life. So then what I started thinking with that is, hey, quit. The types of people, thank you, that are drawn to skulls, are here sort of navigating this density, the death of the world, and we're trying to transmute the death energy, because the system that's in place is to keep everybody locked in death, essentially, which, okay, I've talked on here before as well, that my grandfather showed me that hell is not somewhere you go when you die. It is something you must go through before you can really live. And I think that is that whole point of where, okay, because we came down to the earth, we get separated between the masculine and feminine aspects because we have to learn. If we're gonna, this is like one of the hardest soul schools there is, because you forget everything, right? You forget who you are and what you came here to do, and you have to relearn all these things before you can step into that and the fullness of who you are and step into your power as unified within yourself, being the divine being that we are. But we just forget that we are because when we come here, we get disconnected, the separate masculine and feminine. I guess that goes to that church point of male and female. He created them. But that is speaking to the energies that we each carry within us, how it comes out and is lived in the world experience. That is not what it has to do with. So anybody that wants you to be locked into the idea, see, that's why they want you to be locked into the idea of only men and women should marry and all this stuff, because they don't know. They don't know jack about actual love. If they are coming from a place of distortion because they forget who they are, and they need something outside of themselves to save themselves because they want to be ruled over, ultimately. Which means they have to be locked into their distortion and this distorted way of being and thinking that it's literally male and female and and only the two shall meet in marriage and whatnot, but then the woman's supposed to be a doormat. But that's not the case. That's why the feminine has to go first, because we have the tendency to the feminine aspect of us, because everybody has both masculine and feminine within themselves. How it is split up, that's between them and God. That's just all that is. So it's, unifying the two aspects in that way. And that leads, okay. Yeah, I kind of also have to pee, so that's kind of also distracting, and the dog keeps just slurping, doing the lick. He licks the floor if he's laying on the floor, and I think he's probably licking the door right this second. Luckily, it's not my pant leg, because that really grosses me out. But anyway, yeah, so it's not the system of marriage can only be between men and women. It's just the masculine and feminine of the two pieces. The one that's the upper three chakras, and then the one that's the lower three chakras. And, they unite in the heart space. But if you don't come together in unity with, like, if you don't bring the two aspects of yourself into union together, then you don't have access to, okay, like, I've always been very much, not grounded. I was talking about that earlier, right? And, I have all these water sign, like heavy Cancer placements, and, all this watery energy and daydreamy and having, so I have like these visions and stuff, but then I have a hard time grounding them into reality. But it's not until you unite the two aspects of yourself and realize, for me, finding ways to ground the visions and my daydreams into reality, finding ways that I can, like skating was a big one for helping me to get back in my body and remember the human aspect of myself, and not just get lost in daydreams, because I've spent my whole life easily lost in daydreams, especially since 4 of my 5 big Cancer placements are in the 12th house, which, is all about the daydreamy stuff. That's like Pisces is over the 12th house, is the ruler of the 12th house, and it's all about daydreams and Neptune and blah blah blah. Oh, and my pattern app said something about I have a Neptune complex because Neptune opposes my moon in Cancer. So it's like, I'll have to listen to the thing about what all that means, and I really want to get like the one that I have to pay for so I can get all the information about what that means, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, so yeah, Neptune complex. What it makes me think of immediately is more lost in daydreams and less able to ground it into reality, except through, now that I've kind of brought the two aspects of myself. Just knocked my phone out of my hand. Steal my nastiness in my car. There's like dirt and dog hair in all the cup holders and everything, and it's a 2008. It is what it is. Nothing's really great on it. Anyway, but finding ways to get back in my body and realize that, okay, like the skating is the biggest thing. And I got addicted to skating when I, started skating by myself outside. Just a park ranger just did a drive-by on me. Saw my phone probably. And left. But anyway. Yeah. I got distracted. I got distracted because I dropped my phone, then I got distracted because the park ranger's checking on me. Yeah, so skating helped bring me back into my body, and that helped me start making moves to make it possible for the daydreams to be able to be more of a reality. But obviously there's still some stuff that we're working on that, right? That's part of what I'm currently trying to manifest, is getting all the obstacles out of the way so I can step fully into the life that I want to be living, and doing the things that I want to be doing, both career, relationship wise, friendship wise, getting to my soul family, if you will. Oh, that's another thing. The other day I pulled some cards from the Rebecca Campbell Starseed Oracle, and I don't remember what all of them were, but one of the big ones that stood out was the second one was Star Family, and it said if you pulled this card, then you have either just met or are about to meet someone from your star family. And this is somebody that, basically cut from the same cloth and feels immediately familiar as soon as you start talking to them. And, then there's like, I think the day I pulled the cards was the day before I had my hair appointment with Deb. And, whether we're friends beyond the hair appointment or not, it was really nice being in that space and being like, oh, she's just like me. This is awesome. And of course, not exactly like me. Like, she's into like theater and stuff, but she's into the fun hair colors. And we were talking about that for a while. And she's talking about her good friend that she used to go trail walking with, moved across the country. It's like, well, I had that situation too, except for then I realized she wasn't that good of a friend. But yeah. When we were talking, it's like I had this moment, she said something about that, and she talked about Thursdays being her day off, and I was almost like, you should text me sometime, we can totally trail walk. It's like, I'm totally down for that. And being friends on that way, but whatever. Yeah. But she was talking about, I think her husband is still into theater, and she's talking about all these things. And see, one of the things, okay, I talked about how I felt really strongly that I was supposed to go there to get my hair done next time rather than back to the place that I had been. And when I was there, I immediately noticed that she had a little like sticker thing, had the rainbows, and it said safe space, and it was LGBTQIA or whatever all the letters are now, inclusive space, right? So I was still, it took it took me 3 times of looking at that thing before it really registered why I was there. And it's like, of course, I'm not those things, but I am like very anti the systems that keep them from being able to have the lives that they should be able to live just because they're human. And they have the right to exist too, right? But then of course the conditioning end of it, where like the whole Earth experience is trying to keep them from being able to have a safe space to exist and all that stuff. What I realized was, it's like, that was why I needed to be there, because the other space, they're nice and everything, but you know, you go in there, they're listening to their Christian music and they're talking like the old hair salon and talking about people and about things. And every time I've been in there, it's like I always feel like there's a part of me that I can't fully express who I truly am, because I know that they'll reject it at some level, right? So it's because it's like energetically it's not a safe space, because I mean, they're not bad people, but they're so very locked in the conditioning. And since I'm moving out of that, of course it makes sense not to go to that style hair space, right? Or hair salon. So going to the other one, you know, seeing the sticker, and then the 3rd time it registered. It's literally always like that. Like, I never pick up on anything the first time. It's like it has to come to me in waves before I get it. And it's like, oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So since I'm getting better at coming back to the big point in my videos as I do them, going back to my little wound this morning, or earlier today, when I was scoffing at the shit that my dad had on TV, the stuff that was very much locked into conditioning kind of BS and all that stuff. And then, you know, then I pinched my finger, and that's like, old me would have let that mean I was doing something I wasn't supposed to. But now I realize that it's like, that's not what that is. That's just the universe, I think, making sure that I still this dark's has me at a weird angle. My shoulder's kind of feeling weird. He's warm though. Since I took my jacket off, since it's all fuzzy, yeah. Old me would have taken that as, I'm not supposed to be talking about that stuff, but current me realizes that the reason that stuff keeps coming up is because when people that are locked into the conditioning, my eye makeup, every now and then I catch a little bump or whatever, and it's like, because I like wiped it or rubbed it and wasn't paying attention or whatever, and made it kind of a weird thing. Anyway, that's irrelevant. Because the more people start to come across my stuff, and the more it poses the risk of being seen by those locked into and bound to their conditioning, they're going to be like saying all sorts of shit against me, right? That's literally why I had to go through so much of what I have in my life, is because when the time is right, I'm going to piss a whole lot of people off. And it wasn't the universe trying to discourage me from doing the thing. It was the universe trying to make me stronger, so that when people are actively slinging mud my way because I'm saying things that are pissing them off, because because it stands in the face of everything they've been conditioned to believe, and they want to believe because they want to be ruled over. Obviously, those are the ones that go really low. The ones that aren't safe, yeah, those, those are the types that do that. And when you're actively speaking against the things that are very much keeping or allowing those things to still exist, they're going to go low. They're going to say shitty things. But since, like for example, since I didn't figure out till I was 35 that this thing that, my cousin and all these people wanted to believe about me, when I really hit 35 and started to set down the burdens, really. And I started writing the letters to Tyler after he died, talking about what I had been through and connecting the dots for myself, right? I was 35 when I realized that, I'd been conditioned my whole life to believe I was like a whore. And it's like, that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact. But it's like literally with the way things are in the conditioning of the world, the conditioning is there to keep us locked into the toxic belief systems, to keep us locked into the distortion so we don't ever come fully into who we are and who we're meant to be, right? Because if we realize that's not true, you have to know everything you aren't before you can know everything you are, right? So you have to know that, okay, a lot of people wanted me to believe that I was a whore in my life, and for a long time I did. But then when I was 35 and realized the things that I accepted as truth because they were what had been imposed on me by others in my world, and it's like, y'all are full of all kinds of shit. But it's like, that wasn't the only thing I was able to set down at that point. It's like, suddenly it's like all the conditioned false beliefs about myself, I was able to let those go. And then it's like, okay, so who am I? And that's what this journey is largely about, right? And of course, the divine feminine aspect of myself is very much into the bright colors, which, and of course the green too. I told Deb when I was in the other day, I said that I had never done the green before, but then I got on that dating app back in like 2020, and some guy said, if you have ever had green hair, then don't even bother talking to me because I'm looking for somebody I can take to church. I was just kind of like, oh, green's the one you have a problem with, is it? So let me just add that in. It's like, it's douche deterrent. I know that anybody who's going to judge me harshly because of my hair is not somebody I'm going to get along with. But they can see the hair. I can't deny this. So, yeah, so I stand out in a crowd. Unless there's a lot more of this, then I might not. But in current crowds, there's a lot where I get to do my own thing. And yes, I do encounter others with the fun hair colors, but really it's like part of the divine feminine aspect is being able to embrace the fullness of like the whole spectrum of life, right? Not just this or that. We are all in this together, and we are all imperfect and do silly things. I saw a video the other day where somebody tripped going up the stairs and was like, oh, I've been there and done that so many times, but I still laughed when I saw it because it was funny. And because it's hella relatable, and then that's another one of those things, like stuff like that. I even watched a interview with Lzzy Hale where she was talking about, stepping into the fullness of who you are, basically. And, sharing even the parts of yourself that aren't that flattering or pretty or whatever, because it gives other people space to say, hey, I do that too. It's relatable, and that's kind of the point of this journey, right? Oh, the Hecate point. I was thinking about that. And I talked about the dogs, the black dogs, and of course, now that I'm like looking more into who she is, this archetype of this goddess, one of the things was she's always got the dogs and she's got a torch, right? And kind of guiding people through hell, if you will. And I feel like that's kind of the point of me being so drawn to this archetype, is ultimately like my healing experience. That's what this process is. That's what it's for, to kind of serve that being a light for other people who might be going through similar things. And hey, there's good stuff on the other side of it. It's just a pain in the ass to get there, but it can be done. And that's kind of the bigger point, and that is why I go back to that thing over and over again. Jesus did not come to make it so you don't have to do the work yourself. He came to show you it's possible to do the work yourself. Yes, it's hard. You have to go through hell in a sense, but this is hell because we come here and we forget who we are, and we're disconnected from the fullness of who we are, because that's part of the experience. And because if we don't have these, the depths of this learning experiences, then we're not able to truly, continue on with the lessons we came here to learn in this lifetime. Yeah. I always like it when it comes back and it's like, yay, I got back to the point. Yes. And now I can see it more and more. Right. So yeah. But yeah, like, okay, the waves of volunteers. So like the wave that includes my generation is largely this generation. Of course, the first ones were to show you that they were the beacons, right? So, I like, it's the people that are like in creative fields, no less, because they already have to unite both aspects of themselves to come into the fullness of who they are, and that is why they are able to do what they are able to do, and be the beacons for those of us that have come to navigate the extreme densities that the world has imposed on us. Yeah, that's why we're like scattered far and wide, because as we transmute the densities, one of the ways that happens, that I've realized in my own experience, is like moths to a flame. And people who are locked in the darkness, they get drawn to our light and try to snuff our light, but it's because that light's powerful. And just by existing, we, these people who we establish energetic cords with in whatever way, what it does is make it so that we are helping them to release the density as well. We're helping to transmute the density, regardless of how connected or not connected we might feel to people. That's what we're here to do. And because of what we're here to do, the next generation doesn't have to deal with all the bullshit, because we're the ones that, like in the little pictures that you see where somebody, like the generational trauma, and like there's, you're getting taking the arrows to the back and whatnot. And then you see the one that's not just passing the arrows onto their kid and saying the mean things to make their kids have to heal from something. They're the one that's like, they're taking the arrows to the back themselves, but doing it to keep their child from having to go through the same things. So we're kind of in this space where the younger generations that we're seeing more and more of, Gracie, anyway, I love her to death. She is autistic, and one of the big things with her is the gaminess that my mom has utilized in raising me and my brother. The one that we're healing from, and I've talked a lot on here about, that coercion, and you have to do this because of this, and I can make you feel really guilty and shame you about this thing because it gets you to do more of the behavior that I want and less of the behavior that I don't want, and then you see more of these like autistic types that are being born and, in the world functioning, and they're not as able to be affected by the bullshit that the older generations are trying to impose on the younger ones, and like my generation has very much been taking the arrows from the wounds of the generations before us so we can understand them and make it so we can bring that to a stop, basically. And so it doesn't get perpetuated any further. So since I'm at an hour and 21 minutes and I have to pee, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and then go find out if my class is still happening here in a little bit. As always, I appreciate you. Until next time, see ya.